You ain't got the proof that you know what you're talking about. You haven't lived through it. You haven't done it. But you're going to tell this person that's on drugs, selling drugs that kill somebody, how to change their life? Get away from me. If I want to do something, I realize that I'm going to put something together and I'm going to do it myself. And I'm going to be in charge of it. Even though I got people working with me, I'm going to be in charge of it. Because I know what I want for the people, because I know what I want for myself. And I'm tired of the foolishness.
Come on, Rob, answer this phone, man. Answer this phone, bro. I need to talk to you for a minute.
Hello.
What up? I just need to talk to you for a minute.
What's up, man?
Today on Base Talks, we have Sobaz Benjamin, a man I've known for over 20 years. We've been down many roads together. Some ended well, some was a little disappointed. But we're going to talk about that today. We're going to discuss that. But Sobaz is known in the community as a thought leader practitioner. Something I had to remember how to say. Something I hope he can explain. How you doing, Sobaz?
I'm doing good, brother Robert. I'm doing very well. I got to just say thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure you would do it. You picked you up this morning. You were coming from the gym, so you staying in shape.
I'm trying to.
You're trying to.
Yes.
Well, I know you run a lot. You still running?
I'm still running.
You're still running?
Still running. On the treadmill during the winter months because I don't want to slip and fall. But during the summer months when it's warmer or the fall, I'm on the road.
Mm-hmm. So, better listen to you. You have that bit of accent there. Where are you from?
Born in England.
Okay.
My roots are in Grenada, Caribbean. And I've lived in Halifax now for the past 24, 25 years.
So, can I ask how old are you?
No, it's none of your business. Oh. No, actually, I'll tell you, I'm 58 years old.
So if you do the math, you've been almost here as long as you've been alive. So you're probably here a little bit longer.
Well, I've been in Halifax the longest of any place where I've lived. Okay. I lived in England when I was 15. I left when I was 15, so I lived there for 15 years. I lived in the Caribbean for about 7 or 8 years, so maybe 7 years. And now I've lived here for about 24. So whatever that math comes to is how old I am.
Okay.
But I just celebrated a birthday, so I know I'm 58.
You know you're 58?
Yes.
I don't know how old I am anymore. So that title, can we explain what that means?
Sure. So I have been able to develop some programs that are innovative in the sense that nobody else is doing it quite the way that we at iMove, which is the not-for-profit social enterprise that I run. Mm-hmm. So the thought leading piece is the fact that I've developed programs that have a track record of success around reintegration and that nobody else is doing it in that way.
And this whole thought leader thing, you're explaining it to we can understand what it means. But you're a thought leader, but I also know that you, even in setting up today here, you're a filmmaker. You're good with the cameras and in front and behind the cameras. Mm-hmm. You're a family man. You're married, and there's a lot about you, and you're very active in your community, this local community, and you go to other communities. So a thought leader. I mean, how are your thoughts? Like, do you take yourself as a leader? How are your thoughts? How's your life? How's Sobaz?
Yeah. Do I take myself as a thought leader? Yeah, I do. Because of what I was explaining earlier, the fact that when it comes to ways of helping people or supporting people, I don't think they're helping well, but supporting people who want to be contributing citizens, people who are stigmatized because of mistakes that they've made and that have landed them inside. For those, and again, it doesn't work for everybody. You know, there has to be a need and a want and a readiness. If you have those three things with a participant, then the ideas, my thoughts around how to move from trauma and stigma to a place of, I would say, where you have something to offer back to society. I have some ideas on that.
So you
And those ideas are, in my opinion, cutting edge.
listening to you explain all that, it kind of got me thinking back, some of the things we used to deal with together and trying to get things going in different projects and everything. It's that for me, even listening to it, I still kind of wonder what it is. I still kind of wonder what you're doing. Because I always question you, and we go back and forth on it about, because I know you work very hard and you care about the community and strangers and stuff. And I always say, man, is that possible for you? Is that profitable for you, or how's it making out? Have the people learning anything? And some of the feedback is 50-50 more. So, but you still stay at it. It may take a little while for us to explain, or for me anyway, I can't speak for anybody else listening to this, to understand what you're trying to say about the practitioner. But you're very dedicated to what you do and helping people. And you have the group called I Move, or the business. What is the business, a group? It's a
It's a
non-profit?
not-for-profit, right? So that's the social side of what we do. So we do social programming around reintegration, around moving through trauma, so healing through art. That's the not-for-profit side of things. Film is the social enterprise side of things.
Okay.
Right? So we use film as a tool, a healing tool. So that's the therapeutic side of what we do.
So get
There's
that people
also
give the stories, to hear their own story, or
yeah, that's one way to put it. But the tools we use therapeutically can be then transferred to industrial filmmaking. Because let me tell you a story. I knew this guy, right? And he'd never done radio before. And I invited him to do a radio show with me. And we did a radio show for a while, maybe, I don't know, 6 months, maybe a year.
You thought movie?
Let me finish. So we did this show together, and it's interesting to me because this guy, and we tried to work together as well. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't because we saw things differently.
Right.
And we had we were trying to achieve different things. So we couldn't really continue working together in media. But this guy, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, I'll ask him one day, he took, I think, a seed that was planted in that radio show and turned it into this very successful commercial podcast that he now does. Do you know this guy?
Yeah.
His name is Robert Brown.
I think you're talking about me, but we...
Am I getting the narrative wrong? So first and foremost, does that narrative resonate with you? When I say resonate, I mean, is that accurate?
It's somewhat accurate, and the fact that we didn't always, go in the same way on things. And the time you were doing the radio show, I was more into the religious thing, and that was kind of my angle. Everything had to be solved by God, but now I'm definitely on that same angle. But you were a person that was, I would say, above all that. You weren't looking for God. You weren't trying to judge people. You were just trying to help. And you were doing it in ways that you were allowing your voice and their voice to be heard and to be seen. And you, the radio station, you allowed me to come on and speak. I hope I didn't muck it up too much for you, but you gave me an opportunity to speak, an opportunity to hear my own voice. And yes, I would say it led to some more of what I'm doing now. And I thank you for that. We've been on many roads. You do a lot of stuff and you get government grants and stuff. And we've worked on different projects trying to get government funding in. Before we get into some of that, let's talk a little bit about your family, like your kids, your wife.
Yeah, so I have 2 children, a son and a daughter. My son is 27, my daughter's 24. And they are my moon and my stars. They're the reason for any parent that loves their children will know what I'm talking about when I say they mean the world to me.
I know they had some special talents. Are they still doing that? You want to share what those talents were?
Yeah, I mean, in the same way that my mother put me in everything, tap dancing, steel band, math classes, guitar, piano. Like when our children were young, we put them in different classes.
Okay.
And they, we didn't keep them in there. It's not like, you have to do this. But it was important for them to do something constructive with their time. But they ended up loving gymnastics.
Yeah.
Right? So they became national gymnasts. My son he won a title that was never won in this province before.
Right.
Then they've aged out of gymnastics, but my daughter, she was a cheerleader for a bit,
Okay.
and then she went back into tumbling. So she's a national tumbler now.
Still.
Yes.
Okay.
My son, not so much. I think their journeys through sport in this province, let's just say it's complicated.
But they found healthy things to do, and they're doing fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And my wife, again, same, means the world to me. We have been through hell and high water, as we say in the Caribbean.
Okay.
We've been through, if there's anything a couple goes through, we've sort of been through it, and we've come out on the other end still loving each other, still respecting each other after 30 plus years of marriage. And like I said, we've seen the heights and we've seen the lowest parts, but we have been able to find a way through, and we love and respect each other today.
You mentioned Caribbeans. And that's great, Sobaz. But you mentioned Caribbeans. Is that where you grew up? What was your childhood like? You mentioned you were in different groups, but how was it like?
I was born in England, London, England.
Okay.
I left when I was 15, moved to the Caribbean, Grenada.
Who'd you
right
move there
after
with?
my mum, my mother, 2 adopted sisters, and my younger brother, who is actually my nephew.
Okay.
And I say it in those terms because black people will understand family when I speak it in those terms, like adopted sister and nephew, who's your brother, mother, who's your sister. My mother wasn't my sister, but she was my mother. But you understand what I'm trying to say, right? It's we understand family in a way that's far more complex.
More simpler terms, what?
Well, I think it's more complex than your general kind of like mom, dad, daughter, kind of, that's simple to me. But when we begin talking about nephew being brother, there's a narrative there. There's a story
talking about
there.
Relationship. Right.
Yeah.
So
So you asked me what my childhood was like. It was like in England. I think if I stayed in England, I probably would have ended up inside.
Jail?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
so?
Well, I always say when I was growing up in England in the 80s, right? That's when I was going to school. The school had this policy, and I never forget it, during an assembly. So, during an assembly, I don't know if it was the principal or the vice principal, she was talking about like how difficult school was back in the 80s. I mean, everybody's talking about it now, and the violence, and everybody's talking about how violent schools are now. In the city, people are talking about having to wear sleeves so they don't get bitten or stabbed by pencils. And so
You're in Halifax?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But when I was growing up in England in the 80s, this principal or vice principal, this teacher, she was talking about the school system. And she said, we have, you guys are a problem for us right now, but we don't really care because it's just up and out. And she said, you're going to become somebody else's problem soon because, we just have to kind of, we don't hold you back. Each year that you move from grade 1, which it would have been forms is what we call them in England, you call them grades here, right? So you move up from grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. When you get to grade 5 or form 5 in the secondary school system, which is the equivalent of the high school system, you guys are out. So it's up and out. And then you become somebody else's problem. And guess whose problem that is? It's the state. It's the justice system. It's the prison. It's the prison. It's the school to prison pipeline. That's what I was dealing with in its very early stages in the 80s. And I remember working with people here, young people, and I'm going to call their names. Casey Brooks. He's from East Preston. Case. When Case, and during the very early years of iMove, I remember we were at a conference and he used that term. And this was probably 2008, maybe. So it wasn't as common as it is now. But he used that phrase, the school to prison pipeline. And I remember it being published online, the fact that we were at this conference. And he got so much blowback from, I guess, I think they were like a white supremacist group or something, about like, what is this school to prison pipeline that you're talking about? This doesn't exist. It's not real. You know, black kids are getting into trouble because they're trouble. There's no systemic plot to get black kids in the school system into the prison system. And I would say, yeah, there's no plot. I mean, but it doesn't matter what you do deliberately or what occurs accidentally. It doesn't matter. The fact is that it occurs.
So you're saying in England this is going on mostly the black kids or all the kids that get to that age that they're kind of thrown into the system?
I would say
Mostly the black kids?
I would say it impacts everybody. It does, right? I mean, we look at the what's happening currently in the world today. I mean, in Minneapolis, it's like white folks are like, oh my God, they're killing us, right? They're shooting us in the United States. White folks are getting shot by, you know, the enforcement, ICE.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, white people are losing their minds. And it's not to say that they shouldn't. They should. But that's happening. I can remember maybe 10 years ago. Every week, Robert, there was a shooting of a black person in the United States. Mm-hmm. Every week.
So you're trying to say, where was the outcry then?
And also I'm saying that, yeah, it impacts everybody, but it impacts black folks, indigenous people, like more.
Mm-hmm. There's no secret that we had it rough. I mean, we may not win some things that our ancestors went through, but the background of the black people have been rough. Mm-hmm. And we had to endure some great things, some atrocities that we shouldn't have to go through. Mm-hmm. But we did, and we're still here, and we're still going through things. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying we're because I'm a black man. I run a business. I run into prejudice things all the time, mm-hmm. Even dealing with everything, mm-hmm. whether it's financial institutions, everything. It's not just based on a color. It's based on a mindset they have towards that color. It's their mindset. It's not our color. So, yeah, racism's everywhere, even in England. Mm. And my wife's from England. Yeah, I always knew she was prejudiced. But yeah. But no, getting back over here now from England, and you're in Halifax here, you run iMove. Yep. And what age, you're dealing with young adults, or what age kids are you dealing with?
Yeah, we started in my own voice. iMove is what's called an acronym. So it's like an abbreviation mm-hmm. of in my own voice. So if you take in, the I, my, M, own, O, voice, V, and there's an E at the end of voice too. So
you're sitting there spelling something to someone that can't spell. So I don't know what you just said, but just keep going.
It's going to make sense.
They understood.
It's going to make sense to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just explaining why iMove is a thing. So In My Own Voice is the name of the organization. The full name of the organization is In My Own Voice, in brackets, iMove Arts Association. Okay. And the idea for iMove came about in 2007. And we ran our first program in 2009 mm-hmm. at the Nova Scotia Youth Facility. Some people know it as Waterville. And
I think I was part of that with you a little bit.
Yeah, you did come out.
Going down back and forth. You did come out. Yeah,
totally.
Driving and stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Good memory. So those young people at that time were like maybe, probably 18 up to their early 20s. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of, we worked with people in that age group, but we've also worked with people, in their 70s. We've worked with children who are, 5 and under. But I would say our main sort of programming is relevant mainly to, people 18 up to 35. And
you own that. You own that name. That's yours. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's owned by the government. Nope. But you do receive government funding.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the work of reintegration is a social issue. Mm-hmm. The work of, moving through through trauma to a healing space mm-hmm. is social relevance. So I think government should pay for those things. Why shouldn't it? You know, safer streets, safer communities. That is something that benefits the society, the community, the family, the individual. As you know, so I think all of that is just to say, I think it's not unfair to expect my tax-paying dollars, because when we say government, that's what we're talking about, is our tax-paying dollars, and we're saying what do we invest that in? And in my opinion, improving the lives of people who are most, in a lot of ways, most vulnerable. Yeah, that's worthwhile investing taxpayers' dollars into.
Yeah. Lots of times we be getting discussions and you be writing up proposals because you got to submit those things to get certain fundings at certain times at the end of the year, and you be dealing with all that. What kind of problems have you running with the government and getting funding, and how many hoops do you got to jump through for them to even support you sometimes?
Yeah. So, I mean, let me make it clear, first of all, that we're also a social enterprise. And that...
What's that mean?
I'll explain.
Yes, sir.
So, as a social enterprise, what we do is the enterprise side of things is to be able to, we're able to make films. So I'm I'm an artist also. And I'm a trained filmmaker, right? But, I also do theater, radio as well, podcasting and these sorts of things. But, film is really kind of low-hanging fruit for me in terms of skill set, right? So part of our programming is to train people to be able to tell their stories. And in that process, people are learning how to use film gear.
The equipment. Yeah.
And it's a short hop, skip, and a jump away from telling your story to telling somebody else's story.
Yeah. And you said film. I seen you be sitting behind the camera. I saw you behind the camera before, and you're fully dressed right now. But I saw you behind the camera, totally naked. Everything was exposed.
Yeah.
And you weren't making a porn for film.
Nope.
And I was sitting there with Emma, my wife, and she put her head down when your privates came out. But I'm sure as a woman, she had a little peek too. But what were you naked? What was going on?
So you're talking about a film called Race is a Four-Letter Word.
Okay.
And it's not a porn film, like you said. It was produced by the National Film Board. And if people, the reason I say that is because they're a crown corporation, maybe, like it's an government arm's length organization. So they're not government, but they're supported by taxpayers' dollars as well. So no, so the reason and it's interesting because Race is a Four-Letter Word really is sort of like let me backtrack a bit. I did a film called Weekend Warrior at film school when I was a film student in the 90s. And unlike the students in the school that I was attending, which was York University in Toronto, I chose to turn the camera in on myself because I had these questions and these thoughts and these even demons, I will say, that I didn't feel comfortable asking somebody else about. But I could ask myself these questions. Mm-hmm. And the camera was a tool that enabled me to do that. Like I could, all I had to do is this. And I'm the subject. And confronting myself in that way gave birth to iMove.
Okay.
Right? That's the journey that I'm sharing this with you now. But that's the journey that I used in order to create programs like the Kintsugi monologues.
I wonder why you were naked. I wonder why you were naked.
I'm going to get there. So this Weekend Warrior film was the seed for Race is a Four-Letter Word, the film in which I was naked. Because I was also naked in Weekend Warrior.
Okay, I've never seen that one.
I know. So the reason I bared myself in that way was because the film process I was going through, the therapeutic way I was using film for myself, it was stripping away things. I, as a young person, had a lot of self-loathing. Some people, they used to call it internalized racism. It wasn't. I didn't think I was too dark, but everybody else around me in England during the 80s would be like, geez, you smile, I can't see you. They call me midnight. You're so black. You're so black. You're blue. So I learned that my dark complexion was a problem for some people, and it became my problem. That's the internalized part of things, right?
Okay.
And I use film to help me get over that. And the nakedness of it all was symbolic of that journey.
Makes sense. I'm glad you never tried bleaching your skin at any point.
I did.
You did?
Of course I did, yeah.
That was just a question I was throwing out there. I didn't expect for it. How do you try bleaching your own skin? I mean, Michael Jackson's not here to answer that question. So,
Michael Jackson doesn't claim to have bleached his own skin. He claims he had vitiligo or something. He has a skin disease that lightened his skin. Yeah. That's what he claims, right?
We don't know. You can keep claiming.
And he didn't really. He explained it in that way, right?
You believe him?
I don't think it matters what I believe. It's like, do you believe in Santa Claus? Well,
no,
kinda. Well, sometimes I could dress up like Santa Claus.
No, you still won't. No, we'll go there if you want to go on this Christmas stuff, but we'll get there later.
The point I'm making though about the skin, you can buy there are stores in Halifax where you can get creams that they're called they're anti-blemishing creams. So they're created largely, I would say, for white women who have dark spots on their skin.
Okay.
And then they use these creams to get rid of dark spots.
So where would you put something like this on your body, and did it work?
On my face.
Did it work? Did it lighten you up?
So I look like a raccoon.
Like that baseball player.
Which baseball player?
I forget his name. Sammy Sosa?
Yes.
Yeah. He looks a bit like
you get patchy skins. You get patches of light and dark skin. It was ridiculous, right? It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the fact that, I would even, as a young person, think to myself, well, maybe I'll solve my problem if I was lighter skinned.
But you were made to feel ashamed of yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
By the people around you.
Absolutely.
That wasn't going on in your home. That was outside the home.
I was going on in my home.
You think your parents?
My I would say that it wasn't intentional, right? And any Caribbean person knows what I'm talking about. But I mean, one of the first questions. My mother's deceased, right? So.
Sorry to hear that.
No, that's okay. She died in 2020.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I asked my mum to be in my film about Race is a Four-Letter Word because I wanted her and I to talk about this story that she told me for most of my life as a young person. Not this story. Well, it is a story, actually. She said, the story is, and I talk about it in Weekend Warrior and Race is a Four-Letter Word, about my aunt visiting me in hospital and looking at me in, newborn, and then looking at mum and say, are you sure that's your son? He's so black. Because I'm darker than my dad and darker than my mum. So it's like, how you produce a child so dark when you're so light-skinned? And one of the first questions when my son was born, my firstborn, was from my mum was like, is he dark like you or light like Lillian? And I don't. So it's not like, oh, my mother was kind of teaching me to hate myself. It doesn't work, or at least in my case, it didn't work like that. These are pretty innocuous, kind of like seemingly, light statements. Is he dark like you or is he like Lillian? What's at the heart of that? For me, my understanding is that in the Caribbean, and it's not just the Caribbean, Asia, Africa, Caribbean,
even here,
Europe,
because I have my
absolutely.
own stories about that.
I'm sure you do. But I think that in subtle ways, we are taught as black people to hate ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I experienced. That's why I took my clothes off. That's why I bleached my skin. I no longer bleach my skin because it terrified people when they saw my film. It terrified people. Here. People were like, you're not still doing that. Well,
it didn't terrify anybody. It was. We got to see more of you than we were expecting to see. But I don't think I was terrified.
Well, I'm talking about maybe I was very much, and still am. I mean, it's still my church family, even though I'm not attending church regularly at all. But I do have a church family, and for some people, they're yeah, it did scare
Didn't
some
under-
people.
Didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of the black thing, and because for a long time growing up, I was not attracted or didn't like dark skinned black women, and I didn't like it. I thought they were gross, but it was something kind of put in me from somewhere. I can't really explain it where it came from. I used to say it was because my sisters are always arguing, giving their boyfriends a hard time. I don't want all that drama, but it wasn't that. It was something else taught to me, and it stuck in my head that black women were not good enough. And I don't think that's the reason I married a white woman, but it could have some play on it. So yeah, those things definitely did happen, and the confusion and hating yourself. You mentioned church family. We're gonna go there yet. I love. I'm kind of beating up the religion, but I don't want to. I don't want to go
I
there
was
yet.
beating up religion, eh?
No, me. I like to beat it up a little
Yeah.
bit, but we embarked on some journeys to get some funding in Halifax one time.
Yeah, I remember.
And I said that some journey of disappointing. That was hell of a disappointment.
I remember. I remember.
What
I
were we
remember.
doing? What were we doing? What were we trying to get the fundraising in for?
Sure. So, I watched a film called I forget what it was called, but it was something along what is it called?
Oh, to the States, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a documentary, and it was around credible messengers. It might have even been called Credible Messengers. I don't remember the name of it, but I watched the documentary. Then I spoke to a person who's running an organization in the city, and I said, "Look at this film. This is a great film." And at the time, iMove was in the early years, but I could see iMove becoming what this film was about.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I came to you and I spoke to you. I said, Robert, look, this is a natural evolution of iMove.
Do you remember how we met? 'Cause you
Oh
said you
yeah, I
came to
do.
me.
But you jumping all over the place now. You want me to finish that story, or you want me to jump to when we first met?
Just tell us how we met first. 'Cause you said you came to me.
Sure.
How did we just tell us how we met?
Okay, let's put that one on pause.
Because I don't remember.
I'll put that on pause, and we'll come back to that. Right?
Okay.
It's called Ceasefire, so people know the Ceasefire program.
Yeah.
They may not know this history of Ceasefire and how you and I remember at the Black Cultural Center, and I will never forget the image of you. And forgive me if I shouldn't say this, but you cried.
I cry a lot.
Oh, good. Okay. You never used to, or at least not in front of me. But you cried publicly at that event and you said to me, "This is what I've been waiting for, Sobaz. This is a game changer for me. I can do this." And then they let you down. But we can come back to that. How we first met.
Well, since you built it up like that, let's keep going.
So we first met. We were doing a film project. In Center for Art Tapes is an artist-run organization in the city, Halifax, and we were doing a film project out in North Preston. And a woman who was part of my church family got wind of what we were doing, and she was like, "Oh, I know this guy who you should talk to," and it was you.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we were working with young kids, and they were like teenagers, and still in high school. And we did this documentary, I think it was called Breaking the Cycle, with you. And you just laid it out there, your history, your mistakes. And I mean, like hopefully people will watch this from beginning to end, because, you've said, if it's not clear to people, you say what's on your heart and mind. You do not hold back. And I love that about you. Open, honest, transparent, and the chips fall where they may. And people may not agree with you, but you know where you stand with a person like yourself.
Yeah.
Because you put your truth out there. I'm not going to say the truth. You put your truth out there.
We did a film on that where we got some kids together, and we taped some of it in my house where I lived at that time. Yeah. And the kids came and they asked me questions about some of the things I used to be into, like prostitution and how the things I live. Because some of the kids were from North Preston. They were asking questions about, they basically wanted to learn how to be a pimp. And somebody thought that it'd be a good idea to give them information to steer them away from that, wanting to have that as something they should want to do with their life. So you came to me and we put a film together. I hope people find that film and Watch it.
Fashion, had cash.
And I want to answer you guys questions so that I don't wait till I get to the end of my journey at 60 and 70 years old, 100 years old, and then want to go back and help. I want to help now and answer your questions so that maybe I can help somebody else not make the mistakes I made. I want to help while I'm still in the struggle myself. I'm not pimping anymore, but I still have things I have to deal with. You did a good job.
Thank you.
The getting back to the when they let us down, let me down, and it's kind of the time that I didn't hold it against you, but I held it against you too, because I thought that I was just taken for a fool to go around to all these different things, and you said I cried at one, speaking about how we can get this funding in, and how it could be beneficial to stop some of the gun violence, and I wasn't very too far from the streets at that time. Like I said, the good in me was always trying to do better, but the evil was still there. So I was still very much back and forth, and I had a very good contact with the ones in the street at the time that were the head of things. So I did a lot of my own footwork. I went to Norris Preston and got the strongest guy up there to lead it, that he was going to come part of the group. Because, like you said, there were people that would have had the experience of living that lifestyle were the ones that were going to help people stay away from it. And so I went to Spryfield, North Preston, Cherrybrook, East Preston, Hammers Plains. I went to all the places and got all the people, because of my reputation, I get close enough to them, and I got all the people to agree they would come work. Because when there's funding coming in, the people are going to have a job. And you can explain more what the job we're going to be doing. But
It breaks my heart to hear this. I'll just tell you straight up, bro. It breaks my heart.
How do I say what they did? Can you tell how the program was set up, and that the ex-offenders and guys that were into the crime, how they started helping their community clean up, and how here in Canada, when they got the funding through people like me and you doing our work to try to get funding, how they changed it, how they changed the rules of how the program was even going to work, and how a person like me got kicked out without even getting a chance to help make a difference. Can you explain what they did?
Oh, I can explain. I can explain.
See, it's not funny.
And I owe you that, because it broke my heart then because I knew what it meant to you.
I'm going to cry again.
And I feel the same way too,
Sucks,
right?
man.
But I do remember that. So
Yeah.
I think that you were a credible messenger when we saw the documentary, and I'll get the name of the documentary so people can see it. And you were what they were using in, I think it was Chicago. It was where it was in the States, and it was a no-brainer to me. And if I was in control of that, I would have run it.
I thought you were going to be.
I thought I would. I didn't necessarily think I would be in control, but I thought I would have more influence than I was able to have. And I think, and I don't hold anything against the folks that decided to do things differently. I actually
do, but
understood.
You go ahead.
Well, let me explain why I don't, because I understand that iMove was, we were doing it. We're a few years into iMove, and I can understand the logic of sort of like, oh, this is, iMove is doing its thing over there, and this is new, and we should treat it as such.
So we got the funding in.
Yeah, they got the funding to run that program.
How much funding was it?
I don't remember the amount.
In the
bro.
millions, though.
I don't remember the amount. I'm being very honest with you.
Okay.
If I wasn't on the inner circle on this.
Okay.
I wasn't.
I heard it
in the
was in
same way that you were kicked to the curb. In a lot of ways, it was sort of like, you run iMove, and this is an initiative that is going to be run independendly of iMove, and so they weren't connected.
Can I say very quick what they did?
Sure.
What they did. The programs was run by ex-criminals that come from jail that wanted to change their life and be a part of helping other people change their life. And I would understand, like, having someone like you at the head as the director of it, because you're good with money, you're proving yourself in the community that you're there. So leave you there, but work with the people that can make the project effective, the guys like me, because we trust you. And So, but what they decided to do was not to have anybody with a criminal record be able to have a job to do this. So they not only hired people that wanted to be ministers and ex-prison guards and all this stuff.
That's not a credible messenger. If you watch the film, in the film, a credible messenger is a person who's been in the streets and has been able to work their way out of the streets. Someone like you, who has the credibility to go to the shot callers and be able to say, listen, there's a different way. I know the way.
And I got to say, I did that.
Well, that's why it breaks my heart.
I mean, a lot, I can say this, but I don't have the proof, but a lot of the violence that happened wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. It's almost like the people that got the money didn't really want to stop the violence. They wanted to put their name on something. They wanted to get a paycheck. They didn't really care about that. And
so here's what I will say to that.
Push aside, and I'm still pissed about that.
I can hear that, right? And you have every right to be, right? I will say this, that first of all, I was not in on the decision making. It's funny, at that Black Cultural Center event where the announcement was made, it might have been an announcement where we got the funding even, that this was being brought to the community, and you were there.
And that was one of the times I seen a lot of faces I never knew was even involved in the project.
Excuse me, yeah. So I will say to you that the people, or the person, there was one person in particular who I still have a lot of respect for and love for. People make mistakes. Organizations make mistakes. I would say that not making it, like changing the credible witness from, like you said, from a person who was in the streets. Changing that changed everything.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake.
And it went nowhere.
If that was what in fact happened, because I do know that they did hire people with criminal records or some sort of maybe connection to, the receiving end of the justice.
We did a lot
piece.
of legwork on that, and I wasn't even talked about. Nobody even approached me about being a part of it in any form.
No
or
one
fashion.
approached me either. I still remained a part on the margins, but the leadership, the decision making, I was not invited to be a part of that, right?
So all that money came and went, and I don't even have a report, or they weren't talking to me anyway. What is the report on what was done? Because I don't know. I was kind of pissed off. And it's also one of the things that didn't help me, because I made my own choices. But to go back and forth in the streets more, because that would have been something that would have helped me, gave more of a strength on myself, and have a more direct and use some of the stuff I went through in a positive way. But when they just turn your back on you, it just like you can't trust people. And I already didn't trust people. And I don't see how it would have been all of what you would call the government, even though that's our money, the government's fault. It was the people that were picked to be in place. They knew. I'm going to tell you, watch this. You knew you shouldn't have been in that position. You knew. Because when you go to do something in life, you have something that you see how you can achieve. I have a gift when I work in construction. I can see it all already done before I started. And I seen this project working because of the people I were able to get close to that come help. The biggest drug dealers from everywhere were gonna come. But yeah, they were gonna get a pay. Because selling drugs is about getting money. These guys don't really want to be selling drugs all the time. They want to take care of their family. So if they can take care of their family by being positive, a lot of them are all for it. And yeah.
You have every right to feel the way that you do. So I'm not going to diminish anything that you've said. So, but what I will say, and I remember too, I mean, you probably don't even remember. I think one of the issues that you told me, you came back to tell me, was around literacy even. Mm-hmm. And I was quite shocked.
My literacy?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said to me that somebody there said that you didn't get the position because you couldn't read. Is that true? Do you remember saying that to me? Or maybe that might have been your assessment of things. I don't even know. But I do remember you telling me that.
It probably would have been something that came up in conversations as, but also I would have, even though I feel I was used to help get funding in, I didn't feel they trusted me. For some reason, they were leery of me. And maybe they had a reason to be because of their own secrecy, because of their own stuff. They knew I probably could see through their crap if they let me get close enough. And they didn't. So, but that's done now. And we're here doing base talks.
But let me say this, because I'm glad, because you and I never had this conversation before. So I didn't know how, I knew how disappointed you were. But I think it's really great that we're having this conversation because I'm learning how from you firsthand about the impact. So I think that's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing that you're learning.
Yes, and it's a good thing that you're sharing.
I'm glad you can learn from this, because I also learned from it. I learned that I don't want anything to do with those, not just those people, but even those kind of meetings. You know, if I want to do something, I realize that I'm going to put something together and I'm going to do it myself. And I'm going to be in charge of it. Even though I got people working with me, I'm going to be in charge of it. Because I know what I want for the people, because I know what I want for myself. And I'm tired of the foolishness. So I want to keep myself safe and be here for my family. So I want to do things like this to get information out there so people can see that there are idiots out there, man. I'm not calling them idiots because they are. They don't really care. They just want a job. They just want a title. You ain't got the proof that you know what you're talking about. You haven't lived through it. You haven't done it. But you're going to tell this person that's on drugs, selling drugs that kill somebody, how to change their life? Get away from me. Get away from me. I mean, I don't know where to take this from here, but now I need you to grab it.
Sure, let me grab it. So, because like I said, Robert, we've known each other for a long time. And we've talked about a lot of things. And it's really great that we're able to talk about that moment in our lives, which changed both of our lives. Mm-hmm. You've been able to talk about the impact on you. It had an impact on me too, and on my family as well. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the trajectory of where iMove went back then, right? And where it could have gone, right? You have always said to me, you know, how are things going financially, Sobaz? Are you okay? You good? You know, you always ask me that, am I good? You need anything? And you always ask me that. And I think that, you know, those small decisions, and it's hard now, you know, to kind of say what if. But what if iMove did have more of a leadership role in that project? What if you were involved in that project and you were able to harness the work that you were doing? I don't think people realized what you had invested before, you know. So all of that is just to say that it's good to learn from you, to hear from you firsthand its impact. And when I said earlier at the beginning of our conversation that this broke my heart, because I remember how hopeful you were at that time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good for government and people who run organizations and programs to hear this too. Because that is commonplace. Like you talked earlier about me writing proposals, and you know how much labor is involved in creating proposals?
I can only imagine.
And then rolling the dice and maybe not being successful. You know.
And successful with money that you need to keep something going good that the community needs.
There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes.
You got to convince them to give you the money.
Yeah. And there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that is unpaid, unrecognized, unknown. And I think what your audience got a little bit of a window into was some of that background work for you when you shared about all going to Spryfield and going to all of the places and connecting with people. And as the groundwork, the project didn't even begin yet, and you had laid that groundwork. Mm-hmm. And when they greenlit that project and we were at the Black Cultural Center and an announcement was made, I saw you weep there because you were like, yes, I can finally do what is my calling. And that was taken away from you. So if people are out there now and people who were part of that program are watching this and, well, why is Robert so angry? Why is he saying all of these things? Because they don't know what you did in order to be even considered to be part of that project. They don't know. I know. And that's why I say I really appreciate you telling me, like, this is its impact on me.
Yeah. So, what do you know what you're doing now with iMove? What other projects you have going on now that are being successful and you're excited about?
Well, I mean, we're still very, like I said, the thought leader practitioner that you introduced me as earlier, because you asked me what's my title, and this is my self-proclaimed title. This is not a title that somebody's bestowed upon me, but I have to make sense of what my contributions have been and their value, and I've done so. So a lot of what we're doing now is we're still using art, film as a therapeutic tool. So we're using art as a therapeutic tool, and we're still using, a big thing we're doing is diversifying the film and television industry in the Atlantic region. So there's a lot of our people who have gone through our programs. They come to our programs as participants. They become apprentices and practitioners in film production. So they begin with themselves therapeutically when they come to us as participants, right? And then they're people from our programs are in the industry now, employed, and they're paying their taxes. They are, they're not, they're doing pro-social things with their time, and they are, learning to become film practitioners. So that in a nutshell is what we're doing.
You had a project that we talked about and had meetings about, when ate a bunch of sushi a few times about.
Yeah.
You were going to start in a project, and you wanted me to be what was it? What my title was going to be?
You were going to be, I believe it was sort of at the time, and this is the spiritually based reintegration program you're talking about.
It was
you even
a mentor.
Yes, a mentor.
It was going to be a mentor.
Yeah.
We had lots of meetings about it,
Yeah.
and I think some things got a little bit held up.
Yeah.
And I didn't take part of it. I don't even know where that went.
Yeah.
But there was some things that you were talking about doing that we didn't agree on. Can I say what that was?
Sure.
Then there were some people who were going to be coming out of institutions, and you wanted me to mentor them, and they would be going places and learn different stuff and speaking and stuff, right? And I'm like, it's a great idea, if you get along with somebody that you can mentor them and they can learn from you, right? But the part I did not like is these guys coming straight from jail and going talking to other people about making changes. My thing is they don't know nothing about a change. All they know is about being free, and they want to be free. And it's a chance to maybe be in front of a camera, get a couple of dollars, get out of jail early. I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to waste my time on someone that hadn't proven himself yet. And not that I am anything special, but, if I be truthful, I've done enough stuff to prove that I'm real, that I've made the changes. And to walk around somebody that gets the spotlight just because they got out of jail and it helps to fund the government program was going to be a waste of my time. I'd rather do it on my own. So we didn't really disagree on that, because I still hoped that things were going to go. So we kind of decided that anytime you wanted me to do something, I would come in, speak or whatever, and then I would get paid for my services. And then that way you be doing your thing and I still be doing my thing, not really attached to the whole program, but I could help you in a way I could. And that never went off that way.
Well, this is so. First of all, it is still something I'm still working on.
Okay.
And these things take years. This is the thing. I think if I knew in advance how hard and how long I would have to work to get things rolling, I probably wouldn't do them, right? Because it would be like, no, I don't. What? 3 years to start something?
And you got approval for funding for it.
Oh yeah,
but you still haven't got the funding.
No, the funding is there. but the funding has to roll out in a particular way.
Okay.
They're not just going to give you money because you're a nice guy and we really think you're great. No. There's an expectation, and there are parameters around what will be paid for and what won't be. So you can do whatever you want to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get paid for it. This is what is needed for this program. This is what, government is telling me is needed. And if you deliver that, you will get paid. So what's taken a long time, and is still taking a long time to do, is to figure out, well, how do I use the strengths of my personal strengths and the strengths of an organization, right? How do I align them in such a way so that the goals of this program that is funded by government align with the strengths that I bring to achieve reintegration, right?
Reintegration means from the prison to the streets.
No, yes, or prison to community.
Community, yeah. Okay.
And back into people's homes, society, in a pro-social way, right? So, yeah, how do you... that alignment is a complicated one, and I'll just say that much. So it's not that it's not happening as much as it is I've had to meet with people in particular places, meeting with you at one point in order to kind of, align, and that alignment didn't work. So I had to align it in a different way. And that takes time and energy.
And this was
so I may still be reaching out to you to do that work. But what I'm trying to explain to you is why it's taken so long.
Okay. And it was and that was a word for it. Something around, not religious, but it was a
spiritual.
It's a spiritual program. Where are you spiritually? Do you claim, are you Muslim? Are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? What are you, Sobaz?
So some people might define me as like a person like who cherry picks. So you go to Islam, you pick the things that you like out of Islam. You go to Buddhism, you pick the things out of Buddhism. Like you go to Christianity, you pick things out of Christianity. Some people might define me as a person who just cherry picks, and
I can relate to that. I call myself a thief. I steal from what I want from, and I take what works, and I leave the rest.
And I don't know how else to live. Like, maybe the argument is that you should, if you're gonna, I guess the criticism about being a cherry picker or a thief is the fact that you kind of, you're not. You got to take, you
don't fit anywhere.
Well, not only that, but it's sort of like you're a person who I'm a person who, not able to, you take the fruit, which is sweet and nice and tasty, but there are things that come with that may be difficult. And so you take what's sweet and you sidestep the difficulty. Mm-hmm. So there's a mistrust of a person who does those sorts of things.
You said trust, and I want to apologize to you for something, because we were our friends. We became friends, and I was doing something called Church in the House at one time, working with a minister out of Toronto and some local people here. Church in the House. We had ministry and where you lived at. Mm-hmm. And you would come with your wife, you would come in there and stuff. I want to apologize for putting you through that, because you were coming out of respect for me, as support for me, as I was trying to find myself. And I'm sorry if I ever lost you in anything that I was trying to find. But you proved to be a friend. You came, even though you didn't agree with everything, you were there in support for me. And I see you doing that in the community too. Even though when things are not going well and you don't agree with things, man, you stick by your people. And I admire you for that. And I apologize to anybody that I wanted to convince to have some other deity as their personal Lord and Savior instead of getting to know themselves first. So I apologize to you for that, if I gave you any confusion during those times.
But I understood it in the terms that you described. That you were, as you say, you're finding yourself, and I came really because, in the hopes too that maybe there was something there for me, but I'm fully conscious, and I'm fully conscious. I'm fully responsible for my decisions and choices, and so I did consider you a friend. I do consider you a friend. Part of me is to say, is an apology necessary? I don't think so. Because, like I said, I'm like, you didn't force me to do anything that I didn't want to do.
But even that, I owe you another apology because I got you to do something that gave you some backlash. I got you to read a letter at my cousin / best friend funeral because I wasn't going, and I was kind of pissed and confused about the whole situation. I want to put you on the spot because I have the letter here again. You want to read it again?
Sure, I would read it.
That letter?
Sure, if you want me to, I will do that.
Maybe this time when you read it, those that I wanted to hear it will pay attention and not give you grief, but listen to the words that were said in it.
So I would ask, so why? It's interesting to me. So why do you want me to read it now?
Because I never,
and you just said something to me that's interesting. That maybe if I read it again, then the people you want to get it will get it. So I'm assuming that that's part of the reason you want me to read it again.
Yeah, because I don't think it was received very well, and they didn't understand it, and because people were trapped in their own minds of how things should be, because traditions, I was breaking tradition. I wasn't going to a funeral of my loved one, of someone I hoped I could save from anything. I couldn't sit there and watch him, in my opinion, suffer. He didn't want to be dead. I don't want to enjoy watching it, and I didn't want to make it a good thing. Still breaks my heart. Not a good thing then, not a good thing now.
Yeah.
But
and you asked me to read this.
I don't even quite remember what I said. That's probably one of the reasons. I want to hear it again and then get it on tape.
All right. Okay. Just a bit of a context for your listeners, for your audience. So you asked me to read this at your cousin, your best friend's funeral.
Yes.
And I said I would.
Mm-hmm. You didn't even know him.
No, I did not know him.
Right.
And when I went to the funeral, it was at East Preston Church.
Yes.
And I explained myself to the congregation who were there that I was, asked to do this by you. And again, I don't do things blindly. What I've learned is people have said that love without boundaries is not love. So there are boundaries. So some people will always say, "Oh, I'll die for you. I'll do anything for you, ride or die." Blind love is not love. That's something else. So the friendship that you and I have, the love I have for you is not a blind love. There are limits and boundaries to it. Mm-hmm. We just hadn't crossed them.
Right.
So when you came to me and you said, how much this person meant to you, when you said that you could not go to this funeral because of what you believed at that time, when you said to me that you'd written something and you needed
I'd help
people,
with it, but yeah.
You needed people to hear this. I weighed all of those things with, am I going to be stepping on somebody's shoes by reading this? What's Robert's relationship to other people in the congregation? Would people be like, or how dare I do that? What? So I weighed all of those things, and as I do, I take a risk. This is your letter that you asked me to read at the funeral of your best friend and your cousin. I write this letter to explain my actions. So these are your words. I write this letter to explain my actions, not for your approval. I feel that the religious traditions, meaning the things we do when a loved one dies, is also a huge part of the problem. I feel it is a surrender instead of a fight. I can't continue to teach my kids the truth of the kingdom by taking part in dead traditions and the acceptance of it. I know that Poodles is only dead in body, and that is the thing that has to stop. The Bible says we shall not all surely die, but be changed in the blink of an eye. It is time. In body, we have lost someone that we all love and someone who will be truly missed. But in body is where his spirit belongs. One day he will have a new body, but before that day comes, there is a lot to do and to understand. Mostly to understand. Death is a bully that needs to be stood up to with the right understanding of it. I can't pretend that the bully that is in the playground won't try to pick on me. To me, there is no difference than someone putting a bullet right in the back of Poodle's head. Our loved one in body is gone. We've been taught to accept it as normal. It is easy to figure out that this doesn't feel normal or good. How do you feel right now? I could provide you with the teachings of Jesus Christ, not the teachings of religion. If you think for a second that this is the way you follow Jesus into the kingdom, you are deceived. Remember, the grave could not hold Jesus. He entered the kingdom alive in a body. I'm not playing with this thing called death anymore. It is not my friend, but Poodle's definitely was. It is the last enemy to be destroyed. I bid you warning to get away from religion and all the false prophets that teach and lie to you. Search for the kingdom. Your spirit is trying to lead you there alive. If I'm crazy, good. I know I'm crazy with the truth. We can invest in all the new buildings we want, but if you don't invest in the renewing of your mind, the buildings will rot and you will die. In closing, I've never been shown a more unconditional love from another man than this man has shown me, even when I was wrong. For him not to be here now is like a part of me is gone. To Caden, your dad was a beautiful friend. Stay strong. I hope over time you and I can draw closer. And again, my condolences, Robert, because it feels like this is immediate. It feels like this is happening all over again. So,
thank you for doing that. And you reading the end of that. I haven't quite lived up to my words of wanting to be closer to Caden. I don't even know where he's at or where he lives, but there's still work to do. I hope he's all right. Thanks for reading that. Yeah, I told you I cry all the time.
Which is great because I didn't know that about you. I guess a lot of people don't know that, and I think it's great that you do. I cry all the time too, but I just chalk it up to getting old, you know. But I'm glad to see you cry, Robert, because people know you, and you know, bass, tough guy.
Yeah, you just, I don't mean to just switch it up, but you just came back off vacation where you did some film and helping somebody. How was that? Just to
switch it up a bit.
Yeah, just switch it up. Thanks once again for.
No, my pleasure, Robert. My pleasure.
Teach me how to read, man.
Huh?
Just joke. I said teach me how to read, but go
I
ahead.
would love to, but it's sort of like I would love to. Conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
Guadeloupe. So essentially, to teach you how to read, I need someone to teach me how to speak French. I have a friend and a colleague who's willing to teach me how to speak French. So
oui. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Oui.
Mm-hmm. That's all I got.
Me too. But I went to the French Antilles, a place called Guadeloupe, with somebody who I met as he's a professor at NASCAD who is growing into. I hope, I feel like we're brothers. I feel that. I mean, I was out there. I stayed in his mother's home, ate his mother's cooking. It's kind of hard to kind of not take that as a privilege.
So you did some film work for him.
Yeah, so I did some film work for him. We're doing, it's around the drum. So on the plantation during the enslavement period, drums were banned as part of African people's
We should have
identity.
brought your drum because you played a drum.
I do play the drum.
We didn't bring it, did we?
I didn't bring it, but I can bring it another time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eddie, his name is Eddie Furman. His name is, and Guadeloupe, and the drum. So the drum was banned, but like most resilient nations of people, races of people, we became the drum. That is what his art piece is about. This idea of, and we can talk about it another time, but fungibility.
Because the drum kind of relayed a message, right?
Yeah.
It sent people a message.
Yeah.
Same as we're talking.
Yeah.
But the drum had its own words and people understood it.
Yeah. They call them talking drums.
Okay.
A lot of us in North America and Europe, if we're there, is because we were kidnapped, trafficked from West African countries like Ghana, Nigeria.
Is the film about slavery?
No, the film is about like how he has this concept of fungibility, and I won't get into it right now.
Okay.
But that is sort of what it's a economic term, financing term, that people may recognize from the world of finances, fungibility, and but basically the film is about, the art piece is an art piece is about how something was taken away, but how we were able to hold on to it, even though it was taken away quite violently. The drum. Mm-hmm. We became the drum. And so it features sort of like African people of the diaspora, African diaspora, beatboxers, and there's this, in Guadeloupe, there's this like an equivalent of a beatbox, but it's throat singing. Okay. And so he's got people doing these performances from Guadeloupe, sort of attired in sort of a very sort of Afrocentric way.
Are they black people?
Yes.
Dark like us?
Some are light-skinned.
Okay.
Some are dark.
Women and
like
men?
us. Men in Guadeloupe, we're going to do the same here in Halifax. So it's a sort of a sister project where in Halifax we're going to have women and men, beatboxers and what's called scat,
so was it
jazz singers, like who use their voices as instruments.
So was it originally that usually the men that played the drums?
I probably.
Okay.
I know in the West African tradition, the tradition of the griot and the djembe fola, these are, traditionally, patriarchal, yes. One of the reasons why, the drum circle that I guide in Halifax is diverse in terms of race, in terms of gender, sexual orientation. And that is sort of just a way of, I am a person of African descent, and that connection was stripped away from me, and I want that connection back, which is why I started drumming in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I'm also a product of North America, of Europe. A theorist by the name of Paul Gilroy calls it the Black Atlantic. You're the Black Atlantic, in the sense, quite literally.
When you say that, because I was listening to something this morning that Farrakhan said.
Yes.
These names like Black American, American African. How do you say that?
African American.
African American, and then he was explaining how black people didn't even come up with the name African. They didn't come up. We didn't come up with these names. They were given to us. Mm-hmm. And when you say I am something,
maybe I should take.
I'm not taking that on.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm base.
Yeah.
And that's the name I hope to put on all my legal certificates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm base.
So I think we do things differently, you and I, and we've always. But there's enough common ground, I guess, for our friendship to be real.
We disagree a lot.
Yeah, totally. But the Black Atlantic is that is sort of indicative of the people in Africa, brought to the Caribbean to be, because that's what happened. People were trafficked from Africa during the enslavement period, and they were domesticated in the Caribbean. So they were broken like animal, like you break an animal, right? You domesticate animals.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring them to the Caribbean where you pretty much break them, and then you bring them to the United States and Europe where they, but mainly the United States, work on plantations. And, and it was a triangular configuration, the Black Atlantic, Africa, Caribbean, in North America.
Saying
Europe.
all that, this is Black, was it Black History Month? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
How do you,
African Heritage Month.
how do you feel about that? Do you feel it's a good thing? Is it something we need? Do we need a month to remember the goods, the bads, or what is it all about for you?
Here's what I will say to that, right? In the grand scheme of things, every day is, for me, every day is African Heritage Month. Every day. I live it.
Right.
So
When you say you live it, are you still feeling some prejudice when you move?
when you say move, you mean when
You're
I'm
going around the city in different.
do I feel prejudice?
Not that you feel that. Do you feel it against you in some rooms? Because the black history of the black women and man is being hated.
Sure.
Is being walked on and put down
Sure.
and being treated like less than.
Yeah. Do I experience that still? Absolutely.
Yeah. So Black History Month for you, and a lot of times I hear about Dr. King and all the people that you hear names all the time, but there's been many people that have done great things. You know, I watched Dr. King, a lot of his tapes. You can go online and watch it and listen to his words, and I've done all that with Dr. King and Malcolm X and Gandhi, different people. Listen to them. There's a lot of things I love. There's a lot of things I could see that I wouldn't get behind them and follow them or nothing. Because even one thing I would say about Malcolm X, he called white people the devil. But his mom was white. And had...
Well, she wasn't white.
She wasn't all... She had white in her.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So do we just want to, like people say, we got the first black president? No, we got the first mixed president. He ain't black. How you going to just eliminate his mother from existence? So, and that's why I tell my kids, no, don't get all, you're not a black man, you're not a white man, you're just a man. You're a person. And don't try to get rid of that part that's your mother. Your mother's great. And, yeah, so when listen Malcolm X say that, I'm saying, does he not see the part of him that's white? Because if that part wasn't in him, then he wouldn't be who he is. Mm-hmm. And accepting who you are and knowing who you are is something I have had to deal with. I had to know who I am and love my whole self. I can't eliminate none of myself. I can't just say, my mom was a fair-skinned lady. So I'm sure in some of her, especially with the trails of what black people went through, there's some white in her.
Well, I'm glad you put it in those terms because, I mean, the idea of purity is a white supremacist concept anyway. It doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. I mean, people. I'm looking at you, and people say, "Well, yeah." I mean, you're saying my mother probably had white in her, which means probably it's in your DNA. It's like
in there somewhere.
it's so we're all mutts.
Just saying that, my credit score probably
blood.
went up. Just saying that, admitting that I got some white in me, my credit score probably just went up.
So all of that is just to say, I think that Robert, we use stories in order to make sense of the world and our place in it. Stories.
Yes.
Race is a story. Race is one story of making sense of the world and our place in it. It's not the only story. It's not even necessary. We know it's not even a real true story. It's a myth. But it is a myth that has social impact still, which makes it relevant. And that I mean, if you're able to figure out a way to be the best version of yourself, to be what you aspire to, and you're using tools that do not include race, then more power to you.
Yeah, I love the things that go on, and like I just learned, no matter what month it is. I love some of the rabbit holes I went down to find out about my black history. Man, we have a lot of beautiful history, and a lot of it has been covered up, and a lot of it people have put their names on it and their faces on it. And it takes a person that's going to use discernment to go into those things and see the truth and come away from some of this foolishness. You know, it's one of the reasons why I have a problem with Jesus being my Savior. I love the words that helped me get myself together, but I had to do the work. Why am I giving somebody else the credit for the work I did? You and people that's helped me in my life, thank you. But don't take credit for me, what I did.
One of the things I will say about you, Robert, over the years that I've observed is that you're a good student. You are teachable, and you are diligent in your work and your study. And I'm glad to see that is not diminished. That you still seek, and you're a good student.
I still live by trial and error. I'm not afraid to make some mistakes. I just don't want the mistakes to be the ones I used to make, hurting other people, putting myself in jail, put myself back. I mean, but getting something wrong and believing something that's not true, that now that I got to erase and get rid of, yeah, I can do that. I can admit when I was wrong. I can admit that there's more for me to learn. And I can admit I don't know everything. And I don't want to be anybody's teacher. But if I can give you a tip that you can go help yourself and help teach yourself, then you should take that tip. I think you should.
Well, I think any right-thinking person, you use the word discernment. It doesn't, just because somebody tells you something doesn't make it true, doesn't make it gospel. It doesn't mean you have to abandon what you have learned in order to, walk down this path of somebody who has given you something. But I think you talk about, there's work that I have to do. Jesus, great, but the deal is that you have to, if you're waiting, with that story about the life raft, help me, Lord, I'm drowning. The boat pulls up, and it's the guy on the farmer on the boat. Oh, come in the boat, I'll help you. No, I'm waiting for Jesus to help me. Boat goes by. Help me, Lord, help me, Lord. Now the boat comes by. Maybe it's a butcher. Come on the boat. No, I'm waiting for Jesus to help me. And he drowns in front of the pearly gates, talking to Jesus, I guess, is like, why didn't you help me, Lord? And the Lord says, well, I sent all of these boats, and why didn't you? So the point there, I think, that you made quite beautifully is that, we have a part to play in this. Yeah. Jesus is in you. Jesus is in me. And
I am the only Jesus I'm looking to see. But I'm looking to see the me and you.
That's my point.
My name's Robert. Your name is Sobaz. I'm good with that. Yeah. It always happens to me. I always look over there and I don't even be pretending. You've heard about the base challenge.
Remind me of what the base challenge is.
Have you watched any episodes?
I've watched episodes.
So
not all the way through, obviously, because I've missed the base challenge.
The base challenge is those 100-pound dumbbells there. You pick them off there. I mean, matter of fact, I put them in the floor. If you can grab them and curl them with two nice curls without bending over and swaying, you get $1,000.
Can you?
You gonna give me $1,000?
I'm just wondering if you can do that.
I can do it.
Okay.
But if you're...
I know I can't. I mean, but I would try.
But since you haven't watched it, don't know what the base challenge is, and the challenge was there, and I was going to offer my $1,000.
Oh, should I be offering you $1,000?
And if I can do it, but I'll bump it up. If I can do it twice, will you give me $1,000?
I don't have $1,000 to give you, bro. So if you got $1,000 to give me... I'll try.
You gonna attempt it? All right, cool. So are we gonna set up for that?
Sure.
Make sure the camera's on face this time. I never usually go. I never usually go first. I usually let the. You guys good? I'm not warmed up today, so bad. Few more.
That's good. No more.
Few more.
You're hurting me. I'm in pain, okay? I see you doing that, but I'm in pain. Anyway, I won't be able to do that, but I will try. Holy smokes. I'm going to embarrass myself now.
That's $3,000 on me, by the way.
What?
I did 3 times.
I didn't agree to that, though.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Let's see if I can even take this up. Oh. that's about the extent of it.
That was nice. That was a nice deadlift.
No, that's not gonna work. Oh,
Thank you. I appreciate your effort.
wow! The fact that you can do that's painful to me. That's the base challenge that I failed.
Yeah.
But you passed it, which is good. This is why it's the base challenge, and not the Sobaz challenge. Maybe I'll see if I can create the Sobaz challenge and see what that might be. I have no idea what that would be.
Yeah. So thank you for doing that. And
Oh, I know what it could be.
what's that?
Running a marathon.
Running a marathon?
Yeah, I'll give you $1,000 to run a marathon. 26.2 miles.
You know what? I would jump right on. I would jump right on that.
Would ya?
I could do that.
Could
I
ya?
don't like to lose weight.
Uh-huh.
So I don't like to lose
That's why it's
weight.
the Sobaz challenge, because that's a challenge for me, but that would be my challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even come.
I'm gonna
No,
pass
that is,
on.
if and no one has an idea of how heavy that is. What you just anyway, that's
Yeah. I like that because
That's
not
heavy.
many men that go in the gym every day and pump up for steroids. I'm no longer on steroids, and I can still curl those.
That's pretty serious, bro.
I think it shows a little bit, but I'm determined to do things other people can't do.
Understood.
So, and it's not to put anybody to shame.
I don't feel the shame at all. I mean, I feel quite in awe, you know.
Sweating though.
Huh?
I'm sweating though.
Which you should. I mean, like curling 100 pounds
The secret,
3 times.
my secret is though, I have the 120s in my gym. I can curl those too.
Understood.
So I can curl the 120. So when someone do beat that,
Understood.
come do that. I'll put the 120s on there.
Well, the reason you can do one is because you can do 120. That's
yeah.
that's why you can do one.
And
So
the reason
that's
I can do it because I've been due diligent to working out for years,
yeah.
and through trial and error.
And it's interesting because I had a conversation with my wife today about that. About everybody's able to do things, because people will always say, "Well, I can do this. I can do this." So ability is something that everybody kind of wants to boast. But for me, it's not about ability. It's about reliability.
Yeah,
It's about whether or not when I need what I need, or if I need you to be there, will you be there?
Yeah.
So everybody has this ability. Yeah, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. But for me, it's about reliability.
and you're proof of that today. You've been there for me in church in the house and reading letters, and even today, and many other things we have done together. Going to eat sushi. You're a person that you know how to be there for people, and I really appreciate that in you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you for coming on Base Talks. We go have something to eat, and if we want to come back and talk some more, we will.
Sure.
But
I'm
in the
down with that.
meantime, thanks, brother. Thank you.
All I can do is give you love. You gotta make them hard choices for yourself. Them hard choices. You gotta tell yourself that's enough. You gotta tell yourself, no. You gotta tell yourself I quit. You gotta tell yourself you gotta be your own boss. You gotta be your own boss. You gotta be your own boss.
I feel you, man. Listen, thanks for the talk, bro. I appreciate it. I'll see you soon, okay?
Thanks for calling me, man.
No,
but
thank you. All right, man.